Hey guys, welcome to Travel Bros. It is episode 15. I've been wrong the last 2 weeks in a row, but I triple checked today and I'm pretty sure we are there. Today we are talking how our clients are producing essentially Hyatt status without having Hyatt status, and how people with Hyatt status can actually increase their status essentially or get more without status. And we're talking the Hyatt Prive program. A lot of people never even heard of it. You've stayed at Hyatt before. You're like, what is this? Jamie, give us the 101 version of what is the Hyatt Prive program.
Hyatt Prive is probably one of my favorite luxury programs out there. And like you said, it basically gives, the person staying status benefits without having necessarily status. Some of the benefits are really valuable. These are going to be available at mostly full service properties. So think like, Park Hyatt, Andaz, Grand Hyatt, Hyatt Regency, Thompson, things like that. And what Hyatt Prive gives you is it's going to give you breakfast for two daily, which depending on the property, that can be a significant savings up to $100 or so per day. You're going to get a property credit. This is typically $100. It can vary based on the property, but typically $100. A welcome amenity of some sort. And that's something that we can, typically work with a property to customize it for, whatever occasion it may be, or, if there's something you particularly like. But to me, my favorite part of the Hyatt Prive program is the upgrade, right? So most programs are upgrade based on availability at check-in. So you're kind of rolling the dice. You need to book what you want. Hyatt Prive actually allows us to confirm an upgrade within 24 hours of booking. So we typically have a good idea if we can confirm an upgrade when we're booking this room for you. Now it is based on, forecasted occupancy. So you go in, Christmas or holidays, things like that, we might not be able to confirm an upgrade for you, but the value is like, that's a huge value. You also get early check-in, late checkout based on availability. So, you got an early flight or a late flight, we can normally work with the property to try and accommodate that. So really great program. It's a money saver. It is, like we talked about, it's like having status with the hotel without necessarily having status.
I think that was a pretty great summary. Let's talk about, in theory, someone that already has status, say maybe Explorers or Globalist status. What's a reason, if you've got a cash booking, that you would use a Prive agent on, since you've already got status and we're presenting this as giving you status?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a couple really good, I would say, use cases for this. Right. So you think about your, Hyatt Globalist, so you've got status of some sort, and typically with, the Hyatt status, you're going to get breakfast or club lounge access. So some people are not fans of the club lounges. What's really cool is if you're a Globalist and you're staying at a Grand Hyatt or Hyatt Regency with club lounge access and you book Prive, you also get restaurant breakfast, right? So you're going to have the lounge access as a Globalist, and then you're going to have restaurant breakfast as a, Prive guest. Other good values are, you get this property credit. So if all things are equal and the rates are the same, you might as well get this extra $100 thrown in for your stay. And a lot of times that's the case. Prive promos. So sometimes there'll be a third, fourth, fifth night free, 20% off, 15% off, whatever that may be. So it actually may be cheaper to book a Prive rate versus a, publicly available rate. So that's one that I've seen a lot of. It works out to be the same or cheaper. Plus, you get this $100 property credit. Another one that I know you and I have talked a little bit about is that confirmed upgrade. So yes, as a Globalist, you can, based on availability at check-in, you may get an upgrade. But if there's a specific room you want to get into, there's some sweet spots with the Prive, confirmed upgrade. So that's another one that I really like. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the other thing is cool. This is just like booking direct. So if you are a Globalist, you're not giving up any benefits. You're still going to earn your nights. You're going to earn your points. You can attach a suite upgrade award to it. You could attach a guest of honor award to it. You can attach, I guess you wouldn't if you're Globalist need a club access award, but you can basically attach any of the, status awards you may have to these reservations.
Right. And maybe some really obvious things to point out is like, this is just something that's going to show up in your app. Like, it's just, we're doing the booking through Prive for you or someone else, but hopefully us, because come on, we're pretty good looking guys. And then it's just in your Hyatt app. You can cancel from your app. It just functions like any other reservation, which I think that's a key point to put out too, because you are essentially just doing a direct booking. So like you said, the suite upgrades and things can come in. Follow-up question that I have that I think is obvious to us, but maybe not to some people listening is, how do we know? Because you said, essentially you're booking on the same rate. How do you know that a Prive rate is going to be the same rate as someone that's already booking? And then also, what are some of the scenarios where a Prive rate could theoretically be better?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. So you really do have to have, a Prive agent check the rates for you. There's not an easy way to necessarily compare. If there's not a promotion going on, the Prive rate equals whatever the standard Hyatt rate is, right? So not the discounted member rate or anything like that. It's the standard rate. To check for promos, you reach out to a Prive agent. So ideally, Joey or I, we can take a look real quick. The Hyatt site is very user-friendly for us. So usually within a few minutes, we can just pull it up real quick, check the pricing, let you know, hey, it's cheaper, it's more, it's more expensive. This is what I would do. I try to be as open and honest and say, yeah, it makes sense. This extra $100 credit maybe offsets the, $60 more than it may cost you. Or if it doesn't, hey, booking the member rate or whatever that may be is the way to go, which we can. So I will preface too that we can still book member rates. We can book any publicly available rate for you. So even if we're not doing Prive, we can book those. We still have the property contacts for you. So there is still some benefit in using a Prive agent for non-Prive bookings if that rate makes more sense. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. And we could still work with our on-property contacts for requests. And if you have issues, like you have a direct line to the property with us. So there is some value even in, member rate or anything like that where we can help you out.
Perfect. I think that was a good summary. How about something else that might be interesting for people too? If you're looking to be in a specific room, or if you're traveling as a family, so I think that becomes more and more common. What benefits do we have as a Prive agent to kind of know, like you're able to pull up and say, hey, these two rooms we can connect for you and things like, explain some of those benefits, I guess.
Yeah, so that's a good one. We do have a lot more information on many properties. So we have access to see what room types and how many at each property connect. So if you're like, hey, I really want a suite that connects to a regular room, we can say, hey, here's the suite options, here's the room options that are going to connect, or room to room connecting, or things like that. So and we can also work to make sure that that is guaranteed ahead of time versus rolling the dice at check-in or things like that. So we do have good contacts and relationships at a lot of properties, and they're usually pretty good about working with us. So I like to say there's a lot of value in that. Just any questions you may have, we can probably get an answer much quicker from the property than emailing a generic email. We have a person we can reach out to at each one of these properties and usually get an answer, add special requests or things like that.
Perfect. And then I think we've presented the program pretty well at this point. Do you have any real world examples where there might be some outsized value or great value from booking in the program?
Yeah. So I pulled a couple examples of ones that I've booked before, and even some other ones that I've pulled pricing for, but maybe haven't booked yet. I book a lot of Baha Mar, and I find that the Prive value there is pretty good. The pricing there consistently is the same as whatever promotion's going on. And if we can confirm an upgrade, it's usually $50 to $100 a night value. So you're going to go from Fountain View to Ocean View, or Ocean View to Ocean View balcony, and those are consistently $50 to $100 confirmed upgrades. Now, yes, they've got some blackout dates, spring break, holidays, things like that. But in general, we're pretty good about getting upgrades confirmed there. The other one that I really like, and this is one that I'm actually going to for spring break this year, it's St. Kitts, or Park Hyatt St. Kitts. And I find the big value here is suite to suite upgrades. So this is where there's some really big value in, say you want to you want the plunge pool deluxe suite, which is really nice suite. It's got, 900 plus square foot of outdoor space. You got your own private plunge pool. It's about $150 to $200 more per night than the next category below it. But we can, if you book that one category below it, we can confirm you into that upgrade. So if you're going for a week, you're going to save $1,500 plus or minus, booking with Prive. Another one that you and I talked about, I haven't stayed there, but we've had a few friends stay at this property, is the new Park Hyatt in London. They include what seems like pretty much all their rooms in the Prive upgrade pool. And let me see if I know we had pulled this up before, but some of these upgrades were pretty incredible values. I know there was one where you could upgrade from like the Park Deluxe Suite, and I'm pulling this up real quick so I can give you this real world example, because I was shocked by the value we got out of it. I think you went from the Park Deluxe Suite up to like the Ambassador Suite was what I pulled. Yeah, so Park Suite Riverview Deluxe. It was over 700 pounds difference. 750 pounds difference. That's a crazy upgrade value. So if you knew you wanted that suite, like that's a great, and pretty much all their suite upgrades were 300 pounds to 500 pounds per night difference as you went up in categories. So that was a pretty huge savings, being able to confirm a suite there ahead of time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty huge. How often are you seeing some of these properties running these third, fourth, fifth night free? And then how does someone go about finding out? Is it just kind of like inquiring, or like what's the way to kind of track some of these for maybe say some properties you're interested in?
Yeah. So lately it hasn't been as many free night promos. They've more been doing percentages off lately is what I've been seeing, which essentially works out to almost like a free night promo. Like I think Baha Mars right now is 25% off, which on 4 nights is essentially like 4th night free. But some really good promos. All of them are not listed. So the best way to check is if you're interested in a property, have us checking the pricing. Even with Hyatt Prive, we have an offers section, but I'll very frequently stumble onto offers at properties, that are not published. And I'm not sure the reason why, but there's often, if I'm pricing something, I'm like, oh, there's a Prive promo going on here, but it's not listed on the promotions page. So really, if there's a property you're interested in, have us check the pricing. We can tell you if there's a promo. We can see what the pricing is, tell you what makes sense, things like that.
Perfect. Back to breakfast. When you're talking, so breakfast is for 2, correct, with Prive?
Yeah. Yes.
But a couple questions. Is it always restaurant breakfast no matter what through those properties, or how does that shake out?
As long as they have a restaurant, yes. So pretty much all these properties are full service properties. This is probably past now, but towards the tail end of COVID, some of the ones didn't have restaurants. So they did like grab and go or market breakfast, something like that. But I think that's pretty much in the past now. So to my knowledge, pretty much every Prive property at this point is restaurant breakfast of some sort.
Okay. I do think I booked somebody at the Hyatt Centric in Austin, and I do think it was some kind of grab and go setup, or it was like a counter restaurant or something similar, but it
may be the only restaurant they have on property or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like they may not have a full service sit down or something.
Sure. Centric is also like a weird brand, I think, in the Hyatt fold, like a half service hotel. Is that a real thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, that's kind of like on the borderline of full service. And I will say, whilst many Centrics do participate, I would say across the board, Centrics are the ones that are probably the most inconsistent with participating in Prive. So it may be like 50-50 if a Hyatt Centric participates in Prive or not.
Okay, that's good to know. Are there any like really popular common hotels someone would be staying at that aren't in Prive, or is pretty much most of the main vacation hotels you think of inside Prive?
Yeah, I think most of the vacation-y ones that we think of are in Prive. It's when you get into like some of the Grand Hyatts and Hyatt Regencies that are, maybe some of the city hotels or maybe not as high end, they may not participate in Prive. So in general, most Park Hyatts, most Andaz, most Thompsons are going to be Prive. A lot of Grand Hyatt and Hyatt Regencies are. There may be a few that aren't. Miravelles are. And so this is kind of a good segue. One really cool thing with Prive, there's for Park Hyatt, Andaz, Miraval, and Thompson, there's no minimum stay requirement. So even if you're just doing a quick one-nighter, you get all these benefits. So on a one-night stay, even say your room's $400 or $500, you're getting that $100 credit even for a single night stay. So that's kind of a really nice value there. Um, Other ones, Grand Hyatt, Centric, Hyatt Regency, things like that. Those are going to be 2-night minimum stays for Hyatt Prive. And then for some of the all-inclusives, so all-inclusives are extremely hit or miss whether they participate in Prive, but the ones that do are typically going to be a 4-night minimum there for Prive. I don't book a lot of those as Prive.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, can you give me a use case of why that would make sense in a Prive case? Because obviously free breakfast is a wash.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, so this is, and I'm actually probably going to try and pull this up while we're still talking, but in the past, the Impression Moxie, if I'm saying that right, in Mexico, the Prive rate was actually cheaper than any publicly available rate, which was very surprising. So it was actually cheaper to book a Prive rate, plus you got a property credit versus any rate that was publicly available. So I'm just pulling that up to see if that's still the case or not. But I know in the past it was.
That's cool. And then the property credit you're using for premium add-ons or the spa or stuff like that?
Yeah, spa or like premium restaurants, stuff like that.
Have you done an Impressions property yet?
I did. I actually stayed in one, time flies, last December. So not December 24, but December of 23. I'm not a huge all-inclusive person, but it was very nice. I would definitely say, as far as all-inclusives go, it is one of the nicer ones that I've stayed at. So I just pulled the Signature Suite King at the Impression Moxie. The Prive rate is actually cheaper than any publicly available rate. So the member rate's $1,272. The Prive rate is $1,231 a night. So, I mean, not huge, but it's $40 less per night, and you're going to get $100 property credit. You also get, some of these all-inclusive throw in some extra benefits. So this one throws in hydrotherapy access as well. So, I mean, if you're going to book one of these, you might as well book Prive and save a couple bucks and get the extra benefits.
Is that the Impressions you stayed at, or you stayed at a different
one? That's the one I stayed at. I really do want to stay in the one at Isla Mujeres, if I'm saying that right. I actually have someone booked there for this June. It's my wife's cousin for her honeymoon. So I'm really excited to see what they think of it. But it looks pretty awesome.
I find these all-inclusives so hard because I think some people give you their feedback with no tempered expectations. And then I think some people go in with such tempered expectations that you just like, some people are like, this was amazing. Like the food was edible and whatever. And, you're like, I would never not go back. And then you get some people who are like, this was not Michelin star dining. This was disgusting. I'm from New York City. I don't know. I don't know if you know what it's like living in New York City, but this is not acceptable. So I'm always really torn. I've kind of been intrigued. There's been a few podcast episodes talking about some of these like secrets and impressions. It's made me this interested, but I might bite the bullet here.
I will say, well, one, I know you're not a big drinker, so that's a selling point for a lot of people, right? You're not worried. We think about going to Baja Mar, drinks are $20 some each, right? Mm-hmm. You're not thinking about that. They may not be as fancy and great of drinks, but you're not worrying about getting that $400 bar bill, at the end of a day or something. So that's one big use case that I see people have. The other one that I think is really good is for groups of people going. So then you're not worried at dinner, like, hey, how are we splitting this bill? You had the lobster, I had chicken nuggets. Like, it's not a big, everything's included. You don't have to try and sort things out. So I think for like a group of couples or a group of families, there's definitely a use case where it just makes things easy. You're not worried about your kid running off and buying, like I know at Baja Mar, my son, when he was like 9, we're like, yeah, go get some food. He came back, he bought like $40 or $50 worth of like chicken fingers, French fries, and a drink. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So things like that.
Oh man. Yeah. Me and my wife both don't drink, and my daughter doesn't eat food. So, we're not really the best.
It's not an all-inclusive value getter.
No, my daughter can make it off like one side of fries from Baja Mar for a whole day plus breakfast.
That's a good money saver.
Yeah, that does help a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I will say you're right. I did my one of my bachelor parties at the Hyatt Ziva. Which one's the adult one? Ziva? Zilara. I always get the two
Zilara.
confused.
Yeah.
Zilara. We did the Hyatt Zilara Rose Hall for my bachelor party with a lot of my like high school and college friends. And it was fun. If nothing else, I'll say that. I think
Yeah.
it was fun and it was easy. It was like, okay, people can drink all day. It is really nice going to dinner with like 9 people and not having to sweat who wants what, who's, covering this and that. So I do think you're right. I think especially every person you add to a group trip exponentially, I think it makes it so much, because once you start creeping into like 5 plus adults, it's like, oh, you've got socioeconomic
Oh
issues,
yeah. It's
food type issues, and
Yep.
so that is nice.
Yeah. I think for groups, like to me, that if you're a group of, however many people, it just makes it easy. There's no thinking, there's no anything. You just go.
And then maybe you don't know. Also, I wanted to point out you spoke too fast when you were talking about impressions. I wanted to ask you what your impression of impressions was, but you stepped on my bad joke.
Oh, that's
Just wanted to
funny.
make
I
wanted
like
to make
that.
sure it got in there. Do you know? Just talking about the all inclusives for a minute before we move on. Is there any room upgrade possibilities with any of those properties, or would you have to dig in on some of that?
So I actually did book somebody there. They did confirm a 1 category upgrade. It does happen. And there's some decent value there. So yes, with Prive, you can still get some room upgrades at the all inclusives. Again, it's 4-night minimum typically. So if you're doing a short stay, we could still book a standard rate and we may still be able to work out something with the property, but typically it's going to be on the longer stays for the Prive.
Oh, some places will do bigger property credits for suites and things, right?
Yeah. So, and there'll also be promotions. I know we're going back to like the Four Seasons. That's typically more a Four Seasons thing. The suites get the bigger property credits. Prive kind of
Okay.
across the board, unless there's a promo, it's the $100 property credit, but there will be time to time where it's, additional 100 or something like that for booking a suite, but it's not as consistent as like a Four Seasons preferred partner. Let's pull up some promos and see if anything jumps out real quick. So I know we're just talking about some, additional property credit promos and things like that. So I'm just going to look through the Prive site and see if anything jumps out. One that popped out was Park Hyatt Beaver Creek. I know we're kind of on the tail end of ski season now, but this is called the Last Call for Winter Fund, $200 property credit for spring break. So if you book 3 or more nights, you receive a $200 property credit versus the 100. So that's a nice little ad there. Been seeing a lot of stay longer, save more type promos. So I know Baha Mar has the stay longer, save more, which turns out to be 25% off. I see it for Park Hyatt Busan. A lot of Asia properties are pretty much 15% off Prive, kind of across the board. And it's called the Be More Wanderlust promo. So it's Asia Pacific. So pretty much all those properties have some type of a discount on there. I know we hit on the Park Hyatt London. They've got a save 25% off promo going on right now. Trying to see if there's a minimum stay here, but there's a Prive promo there.
And that Prive save promo will also stack right with the upgrade and all those other things.
Yep. Yeah. So you still get all the same benefits. Plus, you may have a cheaper rate than is available publicly. Looks like the Park Hyatt Maldives, they have a promo which you can do all inclusive. So that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Plus you get an additional $300 property credit per stay. So that's a pretty good one. So there's some decent promos across the board, just not any like the crazy free nights that we have seen in the past. Park Hyatt Paris Vendôme is 15% off all room types, so no minimum stay, and then 25% off if you book 4 nights or more. So that's basically like a 4th night free if you're doing 4 nights. Park Hyatt Seoul, which I think you just booked this, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, so this one has a 20% off 4 nights or more. So that's a pretty good one. What else do we got? Yeah, I mean, there's regularly promos of some sort. So I feel like if you're going to stay somewhere, it's worth, reaching out, taking a look, and we can see what we can do for you.
Perfect. I think another interesting footnote as we kind of get to wrapping this episode up is I think people think Hyatt when they hear Grand Hyatt, Thompson, Park Hyatt, Andaz. However, with all these rapid Hyatt acquisitions, they've acquired a lot of unique properties, and I think Unbound Collection has a lot of stuff as well. Like Carmel Valley Ranch, if you're up in like Big Sur, Monterey, is a great Hyatt property that can get you Prive rates. The Driscoll in Austin, which is one of the coolest hotels I've ever stayed at. I do think it's haunted. You can look that up. Other people agree with me. Um, and I mean, that's like iconic Austin. And now Hyatt has just purchased Standard Hotels, which owns Bunkhouse, which owns most of the other really cool, unique hotels in Austin, which includes Hotel St. Cecilia, which is one of the only Michelin key hotels in Austin, like Austin Motel and some of these other cool properties. Now, those haven't been integrated yet, but I imagine most of those standard hotel properties and a lot of these bunkhouse properties from the Austin area will probably be rolled into Privé once it gets there. And let me tell you, if you're going to Austin, Driscoll is like, you got to do Driscoll at least once. Like Lyndon B. Johnson did some of his addresses there. He met his wife there, former president of the United States. It's been around since the 1800s, which is why it's haunted, but here nor there. And then this Hotel St. Cecilia, I haven't personally stayed at, but I've always wanted to. And so I think with Privé benefits hopefully being rolled in soon, the ability to get some upgrades, free breakfast, I think that really excites me there. And they have just been acquiring properties like, crazy.
Yeah, they
It
have.
seems, some of it's not that exciting. But if you aren't familiar with Hotel St. Cecilia, it has a lot of history in the city. And whoever interior designed and like dressed up this place did a really good job. If I remember correctly, the Foo Fighters recorded a whole album inside this hotel. So it's got a lot of cool, ties into music and everything. Rates are like well over $400 a night. So don't think you're staying in motel, prices here. And that's is another hotel that's from like the 1800s. So, just something else to be thinking about. And then I have one last question for you, Jamie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'm actually not 100% sure. But I want to throw this over to you. Hyatt now owning Mr. and Miss Smith. Is that something do you think might get rolled into Privé, or they might start doing their own program for that? Or do you have any guess, coin flip?
My guess is probably not. I don't know that for sure, but I just feel like it's more like the booking tool versus, those are all kind of independent properties. So I don't know that we're going to see anything coming there.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
I tend to agree, but I'm also like, at some point I would hope that they at least give people an option.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah.
Some of these hotels. Because like this Hotel St. Cecilia we're just talking about right now, I think is a 20-room hotel, right? And so it's like, you guys are picking up some of these really small, unique properties. So it'd be nice that they at least give their Mr. and Miss properties a chance to roll themselves in. I think would be cool.
I would agree. It would be nice. It's nice to have the extra options and different places to book.
Right. And then what else? Anything else on Hyatt Privé as a whole? How can people reach out and book with us?
So links should be below any of the socials that we're on. I know we're both pretty big Hyatt guys. We've stayed in a ton of properties. I think this is probably one of my favorite, I'd say luxury programs that have the most consistent, valuable benefits across the board. So if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you want pricing, you can hit us up. And I would say anytime you're booking a Hyatt, it's worth reaching out. Let us compare. Let us see what the rates look like for you. See if we can get you some extra value.
Totally. And then I want to clarify one thing on my Hotel St. Cecilia before I get totally annihilated in the comments. Said it was like, it is a actual Victorian era mansion that they converted into a hotel. And I said it's like a motel. I just meant it's like outdoor room to access. So I don't want people to think I was accusing this Victorian mansion of being a motel. I just wanted to clarify that quickly. Like you said, I think a lot of these properties don't have a night minimum, which is unique. And then if you don't have status, especially, free breakfast at a lot of these properties, especially when you're in some of these more remote resorts and things, is huge. It's like Baja Mar breakfast for 2 people at Regatta is $50 plus 27% tax, right? So
yeah, it's basically $100 for
tip.
2 people.
Yeah. Well, it's $100 pre-tax and tip, right? So, that's you're almost looking at, $130, $140 saved just on breakfast each day.
Yeah, there's definitely some big value there.
So something to keep in mind. I think especially another place I don't think we touched on a ton is Hawaii is another place where you can get some real great value. Like Andaz Maui, I think they're a little tight on the upgrades when we were looking, but that's another great breakfast. And I want to say their breakfast buffet is like upwards of $70 a person,
Oh yeah,
which
it's
is
crazy. So yeah, getting breakfast is
crazy.
huge,
But
especially like you said, like these resorts where you're kind of captive and it's either spend the money or it's a hassle to get something.
yeah, bring your own food or
Yep.
yeah, getting out on. Yeah, a place like Baja Mar, I think most people don't have a car. At least I've never gone there
Yeah.
with a car. So even
Nope.
if you want to be
Hey,
cheap, I mean, you're adding another 20, $40 in cab plus the inconvenience of schlepping your family or whoever.
yeah. Or you having a muffin at Starbucks for breakfast every
Yeah.
day.
Which sounds like a great idea until you see how long the line at Starbucks is.
Yep.
Because I think, one of the things I tell people about Baja Mar all the time is it is a huge resort. It's a big property, but I never feel like I'm waiting in line. Like the water park doesn't have lines, the pools are the Starbucks is the one
Yep.
exception. If you want Starbucks between 6:45 a.m. and like 9 a.m., 25 plus
And that's
people
with
in
two
line.
Starbucks.
Yeah, there's two of them. Yeah, it is a little crazy there. But if you want everything you need to know about Baja Mar, go way back to episode 1. We've already knocked all that out of the park. So yeah, but please hit us up on our contact form, travelbrospod.com, Travel Bros Pod on I think every social media platform. We're a little more active on some than others, but we're growing. We're getting close to 2,000 followers on TikTok and close to 1,000 on Instagram. Sounds pretty pathetic, but hey, we've only been around for 15 weeks, so
I think we're doing pretty good.
we're grinding away over here, guys. But anyway, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See ya.